All right, so today I'm transferring beats over to the Electron Octatrack. And there's a whole lot of ways you can do this. A lot of times you'll find that it's easier to transfer them in digitally, like use the CF card and just transfer beats in. But I like to actually do it the manual way for a number of reasons. One, always like to get a little bit of flavor of the digital analog and analog to digital. Well, in this case, analog to digital converters to get the Octatrack's flavor on the actual music that I'm recording. So I always do things the old school way. So in this case, I'm coming out from the ASR10 into the A and B inputs of the Octatrack. So that's cool. So from here, I get the Octatrack to record by setting up a trigger device, which will make the Octatrack go into record mode as soon as I hit play. So I'll show you that first. The first thing that I end up doing is you press function, record, and that puts you into the Octatrack's recording mode. Then you hit record. And I know recording on the Octatrack is like completely just not the easiest thing sometimes. And what I like to do is I set up the record length to be the same length as whatever pattern I'm recording. In this case, it's 64 beats. So this times 16 times 4. And then what I like to do is set up a record trigger, which I was talking about. So you do that once you're in record mode. This is why I pressed it, is when you press a trigger pad here, it is no longer going to trigger a sample. What it's going to do is make the record sampler start sampling. However, if it's red here, it will just keep on looping and looping and looping. And I don't want that. I want it to record a sequence once and then stop. So the way you do that is you hit function and hit the button again, and you see it's flashing. That means that it's going to record for the set amount of time that I've set, and it's going to stop. So I'm ready to go on the Octatrack. So on the ASR10, things are pretty simple. First, I need to get my time base from the ASR10 to default to whatever I set on the Octatrack. So I go into edit sequence. Where do I go? I go to clock source, and it will be on internal, which means that it will be running off the ASR10's tempo. I set that to MIDI, and that's it. Now I'm good to go. So in order to get the beats to actually track over the way I want it to, I have to solo each of them. So if I want to get my kick drum first, which is here, I record that by soloing it. And if I want to get my snare, I solo it, I solo it, I solo it. But let's just listen to the whole beat like as is right now. So that's everything. If I go to the kick, right? There's the kick alone. That's, so forth. So you add in things solo as needed. So right now, let's just track out the kick. And the wicked thing about transferring stuff over to the Octatrack is ASR10 has 8 tracks, Octatrack has 8 tracks. So they line up pretty well, and it's just a whole leap easier to perform in the Octatrack than it will ever be to drag this thing on stage and ever perform with that. It's just not a good idea. So back to the Octatrack, everything is just like I left it. All I have to do is make sure the tempo is the same as it previously was in the ASR10, which I've done. And as soon as I hit play here, it will make the ASR10 play, and it will also start recording for 64 beats, which is exactly like a 4-bar loop. So watch this. Right? It's recording, and that's just the kick. And I'm done. That's my loop. So now that's recorded on track 4 for whatever reason. I should have done it on track 1, but whatever. So let's say I move up to track 3, go over to the ASR10 and solo another track that I want to track. Now I make sure that my recording settings are the same as on the previous track. So I enter my record trig again, and you can hit yes. Whenever you're unsure, hit yes, and that makes sure that the record function is armed. And I hit play again. There I go. Now I'm recording another track. And as soon as it's done its 4-bar loop, it will stop. All right? I'm good to go. And you continue that for the whole thing. But there's more. In order to get these two talking to each other, you got to kind of deal with MIDI. So let's go to the back of these two samplers and see what MIDI's all about for this situation. So communication is everything. And the way samplers talk to each other, either old ones, old samplers talk to each other through MIDI, right? So I have MIDI coming in to the ASR10 because I want the Octatrack to talk to the ASR10. I don't want the ASR10 to talk to the Octatrack at all. Right now, the Octatrack's leading and it's telling the ASR10 what to do. So basically, all I need is a one-way communication line. You know, it's kind of like a parent-child situation. So the ASR10 is just taking orders, right? So that's what's going on here. All right, so in Octatrack world, I just have the MIDI out, headed out to the ASR10. I also, which I didn't mention, back here you could see even more, is the ASR10 is coming into one pair of the Octatrack's inputs. That's what makes the Octatrack wicked. Like, you have 4 inputs. You could sample 2 samplers or 4 mono samplers at the same time. And then, of course, here's the output just going out to my mixer. So generally with MIDI control, like any MIDI situation, you're basically going to want to have 2 things covered. 1 is your time base, 2 is your control. So time base is basically tempo, and you could see the Octatrack is flashing its tempo right here, which is pretty fast because that's how fast that beat was. And then control basically means that you control the play, the stop of your external sampler, which in this case is the ASR10. Those 2 things have to be taken care of in order for MIDI to really communicate to your external sampler to make it do what I'm doing right now. So to do that with the Octatrack, which is what we're dealing with right now, you go into the project settings and you'll see, well, the main menu of the Octatrack, and you go to MIDI. You'll see something called sync. You set it to send, transport, and to send clock. Usually tempo and clock are kind of synonymous when it comes to MIDI. Like if you see something saying clock, it basically means a time base. And transport here, which is basically control, is referring to here. So when I press play here, it will play my ASR10. When I press stop, it will stop my ASR10. Now check this out. I'm just going to put the full beat back on just to show you. I'm right here with the ASR10, just to show you the control of the tempo. So let's play the beat again, right? I'm going to control the tempo. All right. So my time base is coming from the Octatrack, but it's playing the ASR10, right? So I can go super fast. You see the thing just flying by, right? Let's go back to kind of where we were, right? And then control stop. So those are the 2 elements you want covered whenever you're dealing with transferring a beat from anything. Like this could be, the Octatrack could be sending to a computer. It could be receiving from a computer. Just have those 2 things dealt with and you'll be in the ballpark. You know, if you have controller information or some other wild stuff, then you're going to have to deal with a little bit more in-depth MIDI functions. But generally, for what we're talking about, this is what you want to deal with, right? Anyway, that's kind of all I wanted to show you. Like getting stuff in the Octatrack for me is more about like coloring. I'm sampling in 24-bit here, so I'm definitely giving my samples more room to play, and really getting things into the Octatrack for performance purposes is just way more control, way more fun. Like there's so many things you can do with the Octatrack that, and the form factor too, like it's just super small. This is all I really perform with these days. That and maybe, I don't know, an external mixer, but with the Octatrack, performance and control is amazing. And because it's a 24-bit recorder, it retains the natural character as much as possible of the sampler that I'm sampling. Yeah, can't say enough good things about the Octatrack. If you really want to dive into it, I would recommend it. Don't be afraid of it. It's worth it. That's just my opinion, but that's all I wanted to show you guys for today. I will catch you later. Peace.